Hi.
All right, everybody say hi, Claire and Luke.
Hi, Claire. Hi, Claire. Hi, Luke.
Oh,
Hi, Luke.
Claire got most of the highs. Okay. All right, anyway. Here is the homework assignment, and they did so good first period. Thank you, first period. That you get to skip 4 of them. So, and actually thank Jake Hodson because he was like, we did so good. Can we skip? And I said, oh, sure. So,
it would have been
anyway.
easier if you put 12 through 42.
I know, I should have. I know, I should have.
40 and then 12.
But now it looks like I'm giving you a bigger break because if I would have just done, through 42 and yeah, anyway.
And then just 16.
Yeah.
But we're going to be even better, so we should get a skip.
Okay, this is midpoints. I'm going to go over here off to the side and we're going to talk about distance really quick just to kind of review him. And when you're doing the distance formula, you do the square root of these two things added together. It's like the Pythagorean theorem, like a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? Okay, but to find the a's, you have to subtract the x's. And to find the b's, you have to subtract the y's, right? Yep. Like you're looking at the difference between the two. And we do this part and this part in our head a lot of times, yeah? Like a lot of stuff in our head. All right, so that's the distance formula. When we're doing the midpoint is like finding the average, okay? If I say, here's 2 grades that you have in my grade book, find the middle of them or the midpoint of them, you're going to find me the average, right? So here we have an example, and I have literally done this before. They say that find the midpoint. We're trying to find a spot that is exactly in the middle of this picture frame so I can hang the nail. And they tell me that A is 15 inches from one side and B is 37.5 inches from the same side. And I want to find where exactly the middle of them is. Okay? So this is Kyle's. I'm going to put Kyle off to the side over here. This was Kyle's strategy. Okay, and you can write this down. He said, okay, if that's 15 inches and that's 37.5 inches, we're going to subtract the 2, right? 37.5 minus 15, and that is 22.5, right? So that means the distance from here to here is 22.5, right? And then you would divide it by 2, which is 11.25, okay? And so then you can take and add 11.25 to the 15, and that will give you exactly the middle, which is 26.25 inches. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right? That's kind of a strategy that you could use, okay? And I said that totally will work, but I have a better method because finding the midpoint is like finding the average, right? And we're just going to average those two numbers together. So 15 and 37.5, if we add them together and divide by 2, 15 plus 37.5 is 52.5 divided by 2, and that is, you guessed it, 26.25. So you can certainly do Kyle's method. It makes sense, but finding the midpoint is like finding the average, and that is maybe a little faster. Yeah? Makes sense? Okay? Finding the midpoint is like finding the average. Midpoint formula when you have coordinate points. Let's look down here. I'll wait till you finish writing a little bit. Okay? When you have coordinate points, and I want to find those 2 coordinate points, I want to find exactly the middle of those 2. Okay? But I have like x and y and x and y. How do I do that? Still finding the midpoint. You're still finding the average, right?
The formula in the box.
Okay, but what does the formula in the box say?
X plus 1 divided
What is this saying? What is that saying in like layman's terms? Like what does that mean? What are we doing? We're finding the average of the x's. So you average the x's and comma, this one says we average the y's. Whoop. Does that make sense? We add the x's together and divide by 2, add the y's together and divide by 2. That gives me the average. Okay? Hello.
Mrs. Comacher.
Hello.
Betsy. Tonager still? You still go by Tonager?
What do you guys learn?
Former teacher, educator.
Nice.
Yeah, she's here visiting the school.
Cool.
What do you guys like about school? Tell us what you love about being here in school.
Teachers are really nice.
Oh, whatever. Here's a $20 bill. Thank you.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Keyword most.
So Mrs. Comacher teaches geometry, trig, stats for college credit
Trig.
through
CCC.
CCC. But she
Dual
got-
credit.
She during the pandemic, she had a child, and a week later, or did you graduate?
10 days.
The child
Actually-
10 days before?
Yes, Kasem was due 10 days after, but he was a day late, so it was technically 11 days after I was supposed to graduate from UNL with my master's.
So you graduate with your master's in math.
So I never actually walked because I didn't have the ceremony, but I have a nice picture of me in my little gown and my pregnant belly, you know.
And your oldest Layla's what grade?
She's first grade. Yep.
First grade.
6 years old.
Layla, Malia, and Kason.
Yep. So, yeah.
You're fueled by coffee.
Yes, I am. I am right here. Here it is. I'm making it last all day.
The coffee behind the giant water bottle.
Right.
I am kind of just.
But what is she here for?
Exactly.
Okay, I don't know. Get into it.
Erica,
Hair.
it scared you? I just this sitting with
Visiting the school.
So
All
I
right.
saw him walking and I was like,
I'm full out sitting on. I was gonna say.
Okay. Oh my gosh, we gotta go because we got low battery. All right, here we go. So, averaging the x's and averaging the y's. So, here we go. -6, we're gonna add to 1, right? -6 and 1 are the x's, and we're gonna divide by 2. And then 3 and 0 are the y's, so 3 plus 0 divided by 2 is the y coordinates, okay? -6 plus 1 is -5 divided by 2. 3 plus 0 is 3 divided by 2, okay? So they look like that. If you don't like fractions, you can certainly put them as like a decimal. What's -5 over 2? -2.5, comma, 1.5. Yep, 3 over 2 is 1.5. So this point right here is the one that is exactly in the middle of these two if I connect the dots and whatever, right? Happy with that? Okay, now they do it just a little bit harder when they say this next example because they don't give us the end point, they give us the middle, right? Okay, so here's what this looks like. I have to draw a picture, okay? They say find the coordinates of J, and J is the one of the points, and L is the other point, and K is the middle. And they say K is -1, 2, and they say L is 3, -5. They're giving us the middle, and they're wanting us to find this one. So that's what we have going on there, right? So we're kind of working backwards a little bit.
Do you still just plug them into the formula?
You can plug it into the formula. We just thought about where the points would live this morning, right? So, like, we're looking at like 3 in comparison to -1. How far apart are they? 4. Okay, so if I go 4 more, what will this new x coordinate be? -5, right? If I go 4 more, okay. Then I start and I'm looking at -5 in comparison to 2 is 7. Okay, if I go 7 more, that will land me at 9, right? Okay, so you can certainly do the formula if you want to and work backwards. Otherwise, just think about how far apart they are, right? Make sense? And that's a little easier. So this is my endpoint. Yeah, a little bit faster. Good? Okay, next one, find the measure of PQ. And here's the kicker. Q is the midpoint. Circle that. That's huge information. That's stuff that we need to know. We need to know that Q is exactly in the middle. This is the exact middle. Yesterday we dealt with points and we were talking about like segmenting a line segment off, but that middle point wasn't necessarily exactly in the middle, right? It was just somewhere, somewhere in there. Okay, but we do know that this is the exact middle. PQ is labeled as 9y minus 2 and QR is labeled as 14 plus 5y. Yeah? Okay. Now, what can we do to solve for y?
Equal.
They're equal to each other, right? If those two segments are exactly the same length, those are equal to each other. Yeah, so then we just solve. So 9y minus 2 equals 14 plus 5y. And then we, let's subtract the 5y, maybe?
Yeah.
And can I add the 2 at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, so 4y equals 16. And divide by 4, y is 4. Perfect. Okay, but find the measure of PQ. PQ is this guy right here. So 9 times 4 minus 2. 9 times 4 is 36 minus 2 is 34. That's what we want, okay? If they're asking for the measure of QR, you can plug it in there, or we know it's going to be 34 also, right? Because they're the same. So we wouldn't necessarily have to plug it in if we don't want to. Right? Make sense?
Yep.
Okay? All right, example 5. Okay. All right. Find x, and x is a point, on the line segment from A to F. So we're going just from A to F. And A is at -7 and F is at 5, okay? Such that the x is a sixth of the distance from A to F. Okay, how far is it from A to F? -7 to 5.
12.
It is 12, right? Okay. What is a sixth of that distance? 1/6 of, the word of means times. What's 1/6 times 12? Angel says 2. So basically they're saying it's 2 units away from one of these points, all right? And it says it is a sixth of the distance from A to F. So is it closer to A or is it closer to F? It's closer to A. It's 2 points away from A, right? Okay, so he is going to be at -5. So X is going to be at -5. Does that make sense? Yeah, makes sense. Good. Okay, now backside. They kind of give us, these two are going to be the hardest problems. Okay, all right, so here we go. And they're not really that hard. It says find R on NM. So we're doing the same thing again, except our line is slanted. Okay, all right. Our line is slanted, so NM, here's the endpoints of N and M, and it says R is 1/4 of the distance from N to M, okay? Is R going to be closer to N or closer to M? 1/4 of the distance from N to M. I've gone 1/4 of the way, so it's going to be somewhere like over here, right? It's going to be closer to N, okay? It's 1/4 of the distance, okay? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the coordinate points of N and M. And I'm going to write over here, and I'm going to say from N to M. From N to M, how much have we gone in the X direction? Okay, like looking at -3 to 2, right? Those are the X directions. We've gone 5 units, right? Okay, now how much have we gone in the Y direction? That would be like from -3 to +3. You see that? We've gone 6 units, okay? I want to go now 1/4 of that distance, okay? So I'm going to take each one of those and I'm going to multiply by 1/4, okay? Or really it's like dividing by 4. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, what's 5 divided by 4? You can give it to me as a decimal. 5 divided by 4? 1.25, right? 1.25. What's 6 divided by 4? 1.5, okay? So here's how this works. Are you ready? We've identified where our point needs to be, and he's going to be this guy right here. So we are starting at N. This is where we're starting at. And N is at -3, -3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the X direction over 1.25 units, right? Okay, and that's going to change this X coordinate. If I'm at -3 and I go 1.25 units, now where am I? If I was at -3 and I go 1.25 units that way, where am I now? -1.75, yeah? Okay, now I'm going to go from there, I'm going to go up how far? 1.5, so I'm at -3 on the Y, right? That's the other coordinate, and I'm going 1.5 up, so now where am I? -1.5. Okay, so those are the coordinates of where my point should be located. Does that make sense? We're just going 1/4 of the distance, right? Yeah, okay. Let's do this next one. It's the same problem again, but worded just a little bit differently. It says find C on AB such that the ratio from AC to CB is 1:4, okay? So C is going to live somewhere in between here. Maybe it's here, maybe it's here, we don't know. But the ratio, like if here is A and here is B, the distance from A to C is like 1 and the distance from C to B is like 4, right? So C is going to be closer to A, so it's going to be like this point right here, somewhere over there, right? 1 to 4, okay? Now when they represent it like this, how long is that entire segment like sectioned off into? It's like 5 units long, right? So 1 to 4 is the relationship between the two, but this is basically saying 1/5 of the distance. Does that make sense? Even though they represent as 1 to 4, 1 in comparison to 4, that means it's 1/5 of the distance, okay? So now we do the same thing again, right? The coordinates of A are not labeled, so let's label them -4, 6, okay? B is 1, 2, okay? All right, so let's do the X direction, and let's do the Y direction. So from A to B, how much have we gone in the X direction? From -4 to 1. 5, okay? How many have we gone in the Y direction? From 6 to 2. 4, okay? And